That's Marvel, baby!
The beautiful thing about competition is that more often than not, competition has a way of uniting us rather than dividing us. Whether we be competing in teams or one-on-one, playing against one another rallies us to become better players and better individuals. And no other video game embodies this idea better than Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Even though the classic arcade game has the word versus in its title, the game sparked and created an entire community of fans who will never let the game die. And as the game approaches its 25th anniversary, with a 10th appearance at the fighting game tournament, EVO 2025, it's time to look back at a game that showcases the power of community. Hi, my name is Jay, and these are the Gaming Essentials. Video games are an inherently communicative hobby, going all the way back to the beginning with Pong. But over the years, as gaming has reached all corners of the globe, and players are able to interact with one another over the internet, the importance of community has only been amplified. But if there's one community that has been dedicated and passionate, serving as the lifeblood of an entire genre, it's the fighting game community. Going back to a video I did last year on Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, I mentioned how you don't have to be a talented esports competitor to be part of the fighting game community. All it takes is passion and any level of involvement, whether it be listening to fighting game music tracks at the gym or helping to run local tournaments. However, if you want to see a truly talented and devoted community, look to Marvel vs. Capcom 2, where to this day, fans still create gorgeous artwork, host online tournaments out of their garages, make very exuberant combo tutorials,
Light punch!
and create entire movements to keep the game alive.
And more.
So no matter if you're just getting into it with the new Marvel vs. Capcom fighting collection, or if you've been on the receiving end of the Iron Man Infinites millions of times before, join me as I talk about why Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is a gaming essential.
Justin Wong!
The legacy and community of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 wouldn't be here in the first place if the game wasn't actually fun. But thankfully, this is an extremely fun game, both on the casual and on the professional level. With a roster of 56 characters, this game has no shortage of both iconic and obscure characters. Characters range from the legendary, like Cyclops, Ryu, Captain America, and Mega Man, to the forgotten, like Spiral, Captain Commando, and Blackheart. What's amazing about this cast of characters is that it is very much a time capsule for what was popular back in the late 90s. Some people playing this today are probably asking themselves, why are there so many X-Men characters? And isn't that the vampire girl that people online just make fan art of? She comes from a real game?
Who will survive?
Yes, little Timmy, she does come from a real game. And no, we won't stop asking for another Darkstalkers game. Please get on that, Capcom. And while the diehard fans might already know this, casual audiences might not realize just how widely imbalanced this game is. At the highest level, this game is dominated by Team MSP, Magneto, Storm, and Psylocke, or some other variation usually involving Sentinel or Strider, for example. But for those who just want to have fun and play casually, don't let that discourage you from picking the low-tier characters, who I actually enjoy playing more anyway as well. While these characters might not be winning any tournaments, characters like Morrigan, Amigo, Spider-Man, and Ken are still extremely fun to play and mess around with. And on top of that, because the roster and team-based aspect creates so many different permutations, it's still likely there are more tactics and strategies yet to be discovered. I mean, even Justin Wong is still finding new tech with low tiers.
Oh, it does work! How did I do that?
This brings me to the game's mechanics and the big one, 3v3. Players pick 3 different characters and can call them in at a moment's notice to switch out and help characters regain health or provide extra damage and supers, among many other abilities. But the big primary component that affects practically everything is the assists. While controlling one character, players can call in another of their other 2 characters to perform a move mid-battle and cause chaos. Assists can range from the practically useless,
Leaving a little tomato on the ground for me. Sweet. That's a nice tomato. Thanks, Amigo.
to the virtually unstoppable. This leads to some extremely chaotic moments where Sentinel or Magneto will be flying and zip-zapping around the air like a kid hopped up on sugar. All the while, you're getting mixed on the ground as Colossus slams into you millions of times. And characters who aren't actually that strong can become highly effective, so long as you have the right team and you've picked the right assist.
No, I picked the wrong assist for Captain America! Did you pick fire? Did you really pick fire, Mike? Did you pick fire?
It's chaotic and hard to follow at times, but that's what makes this game so special, as neutral is played with zero respect to opponents. Let's talk now about the community and how that has helped keep this game alive even to this day. Even before esports and before becoming a professional player was a thing, the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 community went to great extremes to play, compete, and challenge one another to become better at the game. Here in the United States, players would travel across the country to meet up at arcades or meeting halls where they would compete and exchange strategies. Remember too that this was a time before social media and YouTube, and when online game connections weren't great.
Justin Wong introduced Magneto to the East Coast, right? But Magneto's was known in terms of being more flashy and stuff like that from the West Coast. So you had guys like Sumighty. It was literally through word of mouth and experience through travel. Then we would bring it back home like, yo man, we gotta break this shit apart. Then we would develop something off of it. And then we would share that right back, because then we would go to a tournament, visit them, they'll see what we came up with, and then they develop it right back.
Rivalries formed between the East Coast and the West Coast, and players like IFC Yipes and Justin Wong went to great lengths to develop and hone their skills, forming even a great rivalry between one another.
Just a wall!
But even after the game slowly lost popularity, as new games entered the ring, and as the game became less and less accessible, these two titans and other community members helped to keep the game they love alive. Yipes would continue to host competitions in basements and connect people online via the Battle of the Strongest series. Yipes would even go on to be one of the most iconic commentators on the mic.
Ooh, double, quadruple overhead. Ooh, off a meter bill. Ooh, had him in the air, can't call assist, stop! Ow!
And Justin Wong would keep making videos, exploring and showcasing new strategies and content that showcased just how bonkers the game was to new audiences. All the while, the game wasn't even playable on modern platforms. That brings me to today and how the latest Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection is practically a miracle to behold. It's hard to believe that Marvel vs. Capcom was a collaboration that was born out of the two losing money and going bankrupt. Looking at these two corporations nowadays, it's hard to imagine such a thing, with Marvel being owned by Disney and Capcom finding success in genres outside of fighting games. To get all these fighting games in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 available again was considered a legal nightmare. Both the drive and enthusiasm of the fighting game community, going so far as to even wave signs asking for the game to be resurrected at wrestling events, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is again available for all to enjoy. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is not a perfect game, with so many game-breaking characters and glitches that can make it frustrating to play. And while this might be nostalgia talking, looking back at a time when fighting games were entering a decline, I think it's also important to remember where we've come from. And to me, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is a beacon, exemplifying how fans and their passion can keep a game alive for something that can go on for an infinity.
I wanna take you for a ride. I wanna take you for a ride. I wanna take you for a ride.
Even after all these years, the contributions and love for this game continue to pour out. Whether it be artists who were inspired to put ink on paper, musicians who wanted to compose covers of the game's iconic music, or TikTokers who just wanted to make funny memes, the enthusiasm for the series continues to grow and grow. Marvel vs. Capcom would continue with Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and rivalries would eventually become friendships.
Look at us.
Look at us.
But whether or not there will be another entry in this franchise is still up in the air. But regardless of which, the community and its love for fighting games and competition will still be ready to take you for a ride. This is why Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is a gaming essential.
I wanna take you for a ride.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, feel free to leave a like and a comment down below telling me what is your go-to team. For me, I like to keep it low tier and casual with Jill, Ken, and Morgan. And be sure to subscribe for even more of the best that video games have to offer.